Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and good to see. Thank you, our staff, our officers that have come to support our meeting tonight. Laura for Social Care, Sharon, and Ashley. Welcome to your first, I think, cabinet meeting at least, and look forward to seeing you on many more occasions in the future. Welcome to our council. Welcome to the Isle of Wight. And I hope you settle in at your new, newly acquired accommodation here. And of course, we have Louise as usual, and we have Carl. Thanks for your support tonight as well, Carl. We have Wendy, our chief exec, of course, and we have and we have Sarah supporting us on our admin. We'll go straight on. The minutes of the last meeting to confirm it's a true record. I need somebody to. Woody, thank you, Paul. Can I have a seconder for that? Ian seconded that. Those in favour, any comments about the minutes? No comments. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? There'd be no declarations of interest. Public question time. Do we have any public questions? There's no members of the public here, none in the room, none written, therefore no public questions. Thank you. Chairman's announcement. That's me. And I don't say too much. Just want to say very briefly that budget process has been a long process. We seem to have got to the end of it, and this time next week we'll be debating, discussing and putting forward our budget, the council budget, to full council for their consideration. So thanks to everyone that's worked on it. It started a long time ago, last September roughly. So lots of people have worked hard on this budget in difficult times and come up with what I believe is going to be the best offer that we can give to our council, to our community and to our island. So next week we'll return here to do that as a special convened meeting of cabinet. Just wanted to say that supporting Ian on housing, we have had some recent meetings with a number of providers from the private sector, from housing providers, from builders and from house providers to look at ways of delivering affordable homes on this island. And we will bring forward some ideas, not only in the budget, but in immediate works that Ian, under his portfolio, will bring forward to this cabinet, this council and to our island in our determined efforts to deliver some affordable homes for our residents. So that's coming up. On the military road, very quickly, we are in discussions with National Trust about land ownerships. We've set up a meeting with Island Roads, National Trust, and our Highways Department to look at the potential for rerouting the road. So much more of that in the future, but those discussions, as you might imagine, have been ongoing for quite a long while and are coming to getting a steam ahead anyway. So more on that later. The most important thing I wanted to say is that above all, at the last full council meeting, we had an unfortunate amendment. Very quickly it came about, and very quickly it was voted upon. And the effect of it was to increase the council tax support system, which I know as a group, the Alliance and this cabinet are broadly supportive of, to help those most vulnerable and most in need. And we'd always aspired to get to the best that we could offer in council tax support. So it didn't come as a big problem to us to hear that we could potentially move that up. What we hadn't done was take account of the costs of doing that at the very moment when we were trying to find a complete legal and balanced budget, and therefore that added 366,000 to our fine for this year. And next week when we bring the budget, you'll see what we have done in proposals for that. Unfortunately, what it did, in an effort to make it sound plausible and palatable, the removal of the exceptional hardship fund was taken. That fund was removed as a policy by full council. What this cabinet's going to do is move to full council, the next full council, and to agree that a motion will be submitted to that full council in respect of that unfortunate decision to remove the exceptional hardship fund. And that motion that this cabinet, will support being submitted to full council will be seek to rescind the decision so as to allow any budget proposals that will be coming up to full council to be considered directly to reinstate that fund, to make provision for that fund and to reinstate that fund so that that essential support for the most needy in our community and on our island can get that support, and it will continue to be provided. So it's important that this cabinet makes it very clear that we, as part of our whole process leading through a budget, are seeking to reinstate that fund, and a process will follow to do that. So that's an important announcement from me. And I know that you're all now aware of that and supportive of that. I'd like to move on to item 5, which is the QPMR for Q3 for 23-24. That's page 11 to 76 on our papers. Any comments from any members on that quarterly report? Jonathan.
Chair, well, no comments as such, Chair. It's a report that's come under my portfolio, so I was going to formally introduce it, but I think you've probably done that. It is our normal quarterly report. I have nothing in particular that I want to draw to Cabinet or the audience's attention about my area. I do have a few comments about going forward, but I'll leave those until we make Cabinet member announcements later. So I will be asking, as the report does, that it be noted. But of course, as you have done, just to say if anyone does want to make comment about their particular appendix, to do so.
Thank you, Laura, and then I'll come to you, Ian.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to thank the very good recyclers on the Isle of Wight. We have a target of 90% to take away from landfill and recycle, and our the target is 90%. Our actual rate is 96.39. So I think I want to thank the people of the Isle of Wight for taking it so seriously and working so well. One part which isn't on here because it's not been updated, but I've got a new one, an update now, and that is that the total electric exported from our the waste to fuel plant was this is a hard number, 3,806,663 kilowatts. In plain English, that is energy for 1 week for 7,030 homes, which is a 41% improvement from September. So we're doing really, really well on the air plant. So my thanks to everybody up there too. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well done, Laura. Ian, I'll come to you, Julie, after.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to touch on the finance finance side, because it's, we're moving into the budget, into the budget round and what have you. What I'd like to point out to members and indeed staff and media, members of the public, etc., is that within the capital budget, just to show that we are being prudent with the way we're spending money, and I don't like the word slippage. I like the word, another word in there, because what we've got is we're down with a £35 million programme for capital expenditure, and we haven't touched that. We're £4 million short of it, which just goes to show that the management of the finances within this council are very, very robustly engaged, and we make sure, and I know that we've got some superb staff that do the same thing professionally, that give us a steer on this. And to be quite honest, that's what this council's about. That is what the budget's about. And I just wanted to mention that, because I feel that when we're starting to carry over an excess into this coming financial year, that it's not for the want of trying. The pressures on social care, adult and children's social care, and indeed other areas of service within this local authority are enormous. And what I would say is that we're looking at, I think it's 5.4 million or thereabouts that we're looking to carry over. That's a debt as such, because and it's due to the cost of care, etc. What I would say is it's not because we're being flippant and casual with the way we adopt these various areas of service. What I would say is that it's quite the reverse. We've already started to put in train saving measures through various areas of service, such as adult social care, which are going to make savings not only in the current year, but actually give us a full year ahead when we move into the next financial year. That is prudent. That is the way that we've moved forward, and we're also looking, obviously, through our budget to make sure that we have a structure to our deficit. Make sure that we know what we're doing. Make sure that we are pushing ahead and recognising where the problems are, and making sure that we rectify them. And I think that some of the budget savings, etc., that we will come on to next week, will prove how prudent we've been and how fiscally responsible we are within the authority. I'll leave it at that, Chair, if I may, because quite honestly, I could go on for hours on just the finance without the housing. But pressure still exists on housing. And we'll come on to the empty properties and second homes paper later, but we've still got the pressures. We've still got people in temporary accommodation. And to be quite candid, there is one set of stats in the QPMR that you might want to look at, which is the number of applications we get for assistance and the number of applications that we can assist with in support of people staying in their own homes, their current accommodation. And it's very important that we recognise those staff that work so hard to keep people in their present home. And, it's not, if we start to look at some of the pressures that we are preventing, it's not just about the home, it's about the family within the home, and it's about the pressures that we could that we managed to mitigate by actively pursuing prevention, that we mitigate possible splits within the family structure, whether it be the partner, whether it be the adult partners, or indeed the young people that are involved, the children, etc. So very, very important. And I must say, please note those figures, because quite honestly, there's a hell of a lot of good work being done. Leave it at that, Chair. But as I say, we know we've got pressures, but we're equal to it, and I know the staff are working so well. What's happened really, really well is the transformation under our chief exec, when that came forward, it's actually proving its worth now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Can I just add, it might be, I'll come to you, Julie, that at scrutiny on Monday, it's noted and it's in our scrutiny outcomes and recommendations that the scrutiny committee requests that a one-off examination of the data set for temporary accommodation take place for the next quarter report. So I'm sure we'll put that into place, Ian, for scrutiny. Thank you.
It's been agreed, Chair.
Julie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to highlight the good performance at One Leisure. Obviously, this is the Q3 performance report there. You can see tracking very well, and we're increasing all the time the amount of memberships where people are taking control of their health and just having the opportunity to look after themselves. So just want to say a big thank you to all the staff across our sites, because January and February are the big months when people make those decisions, those New Year decisions. So they'll be working really hard, and all those one-to-one time, the one-to-one times they give to people in the gym and all the classes. So yeah, and it's a price for life, don't forget. So once you join, you're locked in. So get your one card is what I say every month. Get your one card.
Thanks, Julie. Paul.
Thank you very much. Again, looking at the planning applications determined, this was an area of concern with me and the planning team, particularly the length of time planning applications to be processed within agreed timescales. This is now being dealt with. Fortunately, there was a reduction in the amount of planning applications received over the winter period that has helped to enable the graph to look better. But I'm very, very impressed by the percentage of planning applications determined within the agreed extension of time, which has now gone down to where we are targeting. So that is good news. And obviously, to have more officers freed up to do their work is really, really helpful. So it's good news on the planning front.
Thanks, Paul. Good news indeed. Karen.
I just very quickly just want to, like, all the teams that work in my portfolio do a brilliant job. I just want to give credence to trading standards that still every quarter save a huge amount of money for our residents through scamming, etc. And would again ask that anybody don't worry about reporting it, because you will get support. And I know some people worry about they may look silly, etc. But I really would ask them to speak to our team. They're very, very professional.
Thanks, Karen. Any other comments? I'll make one comment on my own portfolio, which is transport, as you know, and it's on the floating bridge, because you'll notice that the percentage of operating time vis-a-vis scheduled hours, well, last year it's slightly down on last year. At the same period in the last quarter last year was 98.6%, nearly 99% of scheduled hours the floating bridge ran. You might be forgiven for thinking the narrative that it's never running, and there's a joke when the sign says, our electronic board says floating bridge running normally, actually it has been running normally for quite a long time. Now it's slightly down, it's down to 97%. When I tell the ferry operators that our floating bridge runs at 97 and 98%, they fall off their chairs almost and say, if we could run our ferries at 97 and 98% of the scheduled timetable, we would be very pleased and proud. So I just want to make it very clear that the floating bridge does work very well vis-a-vis its scheduled hours. The reason it was down on this quarter over last year was the software issue that put it out of service for an extended period of time, and that's badly affected the thing. That issue's been resolved and it's done. But the big news, of course, is there's news coming about the floating bridge service in the near future anyway, with a engineer's report to be seen by scrutiny and then considered by cabinet in the coming month or two. So I just thought I'd pop that, but thank you for that all. That's just for noting, isn't it? Need a proposer. Okay, so councillor Bacon's proposed it. Laura seconded it. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you.
And I will be extremely brief. The council must formally determine the admission arrangements, but there has been no change from the previous ones. Therefore, no consultation was necessary or took place. And therefore, it is simply a request that we approve the arrangements as have been to continue for 25-26. And I look for a seconder.
Have I got a second? Debbie, second that. Thank you. So I've got a proposal and a second. Any comments? Debbie.
I just wondered if councillor Bacon might like to highlight the application dates at this point that are contained in the appendices. The application dates for primary and also the application dates for secondary. Secondary is October this year. Primary is January next year.
Why don't you do it? Because I can't remember them. I'm trying to look it up. Come on.
They are in the appendices. Perhaps you'd like to include it in your comments at the end.
If I find them by then, yes, I certainly will. Apologies, Chair.
Okay. Those in favour then please show. That's unanimous also. Thank you. Item 6, report on the local enterprise partnership and the integration of the functions into the upper tier local authorities, which is Southampton, Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight and Hampshire.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not intending to go through the report page by page. I think everyone will be relieved about that. I've been obviously been briefing you all as the months have gone by, because this has come from a government edict that LEPs were to sort of disappear into the sunset in the view of devolution, more devolution across England. I think it's fair to say that this government and future governments of whatever political persuasion will be still looking for that devolution deal. So depending on where you are as a local authority within the devolution journey, depends on where the LEP function sits, and there's a whole chart of where you are. Because we're not in a devolution deal or really any real sort of talks as such. I mean, there have been talks, they sort of come unravelled slightly through the unworkable proposition for a pan-Hampshire deal, including the Isle of Wight. This is why we've got this paper today, because in future money will be coming down through government into the upper tier local authorities, and the Portsmouth, Southampton, the Isle of Wight, as all unitary authorities in the Solent area have decided to work together. And there could be a creation of it's already just been created, called Solent Partners. Solent Partners was the Solent LEP, and they at the moment are delivering such skills agenda, the skills boots camp, growth hubs and things like that. They've already got contracts with the government to deliver. In future, money for such investment, skills investments, or it could be capital investments, in infrastructure investments, will come via the by the upper tier authorities. So we've got, there's quite a few recommendations. I will read them out for the sake of clarity. I hope you don't mind, Chair, just so everyone knows what we're doing, and people that are listening in. So we are working together. The idea at the moment is that we will pull our resources that come forward, and that on the page at the end, the appendix there, you'll see the proposed chart of the structure on page 111. Now we're still there's a template that's gone to government about how the sort of funding was going to work with the partners, and we're still waiting for that to be approved. There's also waiting for some legal advice as well, and also we also have to have a new board in place as well very soon, and also a revised plan. The plan at the moment is the Solent 2050 plan, which has had a lot of public engagement consultation back in about 2016, 2017, I believe. That's got to be refreshed. There's a lot of work to be done, but the direction of travel is that we'll be working together. There's lots of things to unpick. I think I said on Tuesday at scrutiny, it's like you've got a jumper that keeps you warm. Now we've got to unpick it all and turn it into a cardigan. So the same function, it's going to look different. We go unpick it because you're not starting from afresh. We started afresh in 2010, which worked, and it has been fairly successful, I would say, the Solent LEP, because we are, above all, I think through the LEP, we've actually worked out we are an economic functioning area. We meet all of the criteria that government set out as far as number of businesses and population, and we've got 3 very strong unitary authorities that work together very well, and we have a really good relationship. So that's the foundation on which we're basing this paper, and there'll be a bit of flex within the next 12 months as we know a bit more about what government have decided to do, and what the guidance from the lawyers have said as well. But at the minute we're looking at potentially a commissioning model, so the money comes through us for a particular programme of work, and that could be commissioned out, and Solent Partners may be one of the bodies that gets that commission. There's a lot of work to do first on that. I don't think there's much more to add. I gave a long description. We had a lot of big deep dive on this on Tuesday at scrutiny, so I don't need to rehearse all that again, because I know some of you were there. But happy to take any questions, and I will read the recommendation out after I've done after I've heard your questions, perhaps.
Ian. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Councillor Jones-Evans. The Solent LEP had various constituent partners such as Gosport Borough Council, Havant, East Hants and Fareham, etc. Will they be linking into the Southampton, Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight?
So that's a really good question, because of course they identify as being part of Solent, because Hampshire, they're part of Hampshire because they're obviously lower tier authorities. Hampshire will be holding the funds at the moment, because there hasn't been a lot of work gone on. There's also some funds that public funds that were identified for the Solent area sitting in Portsmouth bank account, because they're the council body. We need to disaggregate these. Now, the disaggregation is basically divvying it all up on a per head per capita basis. So at the moment, because Hampshire didn't want to be part of Solent Partners, they're sort of taking their money. However, they can't take the money that was for the Solent area. So say it was for Fareham, they can't take that money then spend it in Basingstoke or use it for a different purpose. It has to be spent in the area for the purpose it was put there for. So it could be for road infrastructure, for instance. So it's not a money grab at all by any chance. But I think that the door is very much open for others to join. And I think when we've had early devolution discussions, very much so that the lower tiered authorities, they can ask to join developing devolution deals. So depends on how that goes, but yes, it does make sense. But at the minute we're not quite there yet, but naturally you would think that they would want to. But
Ian, yeah, please do.
I've experienced the Solent Local Enterprise Partnership and the block voting of some uh, local authorities around, whether they're unitary or indeed district at district level, that have belonged in the past. And when we're moving into this new era, can we try and mitigate that in some the block voting system, whereby we on the Isle of Wight voted down on certain elements because of the democratic way that votes are taken, and sometimes our partners across the water don't see the priorities that we see for funding for our own constituency, if I could say that.
If I
Thanks,
just-
Ian.
if I
Sure.
may, I'll reply to that. So I think that may have happened in the past, but certainly not been my experience since I've been sitting on the LEP board on behalf of this council. It's a very, very collegiate, very understanding about us being an area together. And, you know, it's difficult for the Isle of Wight to talk about devolution. I get that, but it really is. But we have asked again recently, can we go alone? We don't, and it's a no. We're not the functioning area on our own. And also, they have to any Solent deal or even a Pan Hampshire deal have to include the Isle of Wight, so we cannot be left out. But I have not experienced any animosity, any doing down of the island at all. I have to say it's been very, very collegiate. And the current chair is happens to be Rachel Randall, who's the head of HTP. So I think there's a very different mood, very, very different mood. But I think in the past maybe that has been. I'm not saying it hasn't, but I think things have moved on. And I think where the money will be coming to local authority directly from government, it will be for our own economic outcomes, and it'll be through the three unitaries, and that top level board will be the three leaders of the council, the three chief executives, and they'll be working together, because you'll be pooling resources, you know, and you might want to actually put a little bit extra for that project, a little bit extra for that one to make it happen. But it's working together as a functional economic partnership. And we're, you know, I was going to say a bit later in my cabinet announcement, so the work that we are doing across the Solent. So I think that is for us to have a sustainable future, we need to be working more closely with our neighbours. That's my personal view.
Thanks, Julie. Ian?
I'm always concerned. I'm Ireland through and through. I'm elected to get the best deal that I can for, as we all are, for our constituents and residents and business. And whilst currently it's sailing along quite nicely, sometimes a change of through democracy, there's a change of there's a change of political flow, if you like, and that sometimes has a bearing on these things. And I just wondered if people who join and contribute and put their money into a pot, if you like, for want of a better word, actually need to have a say, an equal say, because knowing what I have known in the past, that when we have got certain political demographics, things don't work as well as possible. Is there any way during the formation of this, or has it already gone too far, that we can actually put in a veto on something like that? I'm just, you know, I'm just concerned.
There's still so there's still a year of flex, if you like, where things, the fine details will be worked out. I hear what you're saying. I think, you know, it's something we've all experienced. However, It's, if we're going down, if we're going to be working, if the governments who have future and current want us, you know, pushing for us to be an area which will be a devolved area, which means there'll be one budget for everywhere, then there's going to be pushing and pulling, whatever, because if it's political, like you say, but it'll be one area then. But there's, we're not any means there at all. This is just the start. But it's the important thing is that the old structure is going. You're having new boards set in. There'll be new business boards coming in, and the most importantly is the upper tier authorities, all three of them together. But I'd imagine so at you know, if there's something that the Isle of Wight doesn't like, then you know it's got to be three-way. Everyone's agreed, and I'm pretty sure that's the way it'll be going. But I think there's a leaders meeting soon. We can just bring that up again. Would you like me to go? Is there any more questions? Would you like me to go through the recommendations?
Yeah, there's a lot to recommend in there. Are we happy with, I mean, there's a lot to read out there, Julie.
Well, it's sort of it's unnecessary. Well, it's
Okay,
necessarily
if you-
complex.
Okay, if you want to read it, I'm fine. Just before you do, can I just, I'll give Ian some comfort in the, nothing is finalised. There is a drive to be Southampton, Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight with the exclusion of Hampshire. That's to be decided. There is still disaggregation of remaining funds to be agreed how that will be disaggregated. And there are discussions around the level of boards because the proposal for Solent Partnership as a private company, the proposal right now is that the local authorities would not be members of that board. And there would be a different board that the local authorities would sit on. And my understanding of that is because there would be a conflict of interest of elected members sat on a private company board. So that's probably not going to happen, almost certainly not going to happen. I hope that's helpful, Ian. But it is ongoing and we've got meetings coming up in the next 2 or 3 weeks because it has to be finalised by the end of March.
Just to say also that
and then just
Portsmouth,
sorry, Julie, just bear with me, because again I've noticed on our scrutiny recommendations that the committee requested that the disaggregation detail come back to a future committee meeting, which we'll commit to do, but we don't know what that is at the moment, so they'll have to bear with that decision, possibly the end of March or April.
Yeah, I was at scrutiny, and yes, I would like to come back with them once we've got a bit more going on, once we've got all of this other detail. So it's going to be, say, this sort of state of flux. I'll read through them very quickly. So the Cabinet is asked to note that subject to meeting certain conditions, the government is looking to integrate a number of existing LEP functions into the upper tier local authorities. B, note that to meet the conditions and to maintain a focus on the Solent area, Isle of Wight Council need to work with Portsmouth City Council and Southampton City Council to take on these functions through the creation of a new joint upper local authority, upper tier local authority board. C, agree that subject to the 3 Solent upper tier local authorities area being recognised by the government as an area for LEP integration with appropriate due diligence, Isle of Wight should become a member of Solent Partners, a company limited by guarantee that is a successor body to the Solent LEP to help drive economic growth in the sub-region. This agreement is conditional on Portsmouth and Southampton similarly agreeing to become members of Solent Partners. And just a quick aside, Portsmouth had their meeting on Tuesday, and Southampton have got theirs next month. So we're all having pretty much identical papers going through Cabinet. D, agree that Isle of Wight Council should not appoint a director to the board of Solent Partners to ensure there's no conflict of interest with the wider governance needed for the new LEP integration arrangements. Isle of Wight Council, along with the other 2 upper tier local authorities, will seek appropriate requirements within the articles of Solent Partners to ensure representatives of all 3 upper tier local authorities are entitled to observe board meetings. Note that note the proposed draft governance structure is attached Appendix 1 that shows how the Isle of Wight Council should work with partners to achieve our economic growth ambitions, which will need to be outlined in an updated Solent 2050 strategy. F, agree that subject to the agreement of all 3 partners, PCC are confirmed as the accountable body for Solent partners. G, agree that any existing LEP funding disaggregated to 3 Solent upper tier local authorities can be pooled, subject to agreement with PCC and SCC for the benefit of economic growth of the Solent region. H, agree that Isle of Wight Council, as one of the 3 upper tier local authorities, will work with partners to develop an agreement on how Solent partners will deliver economic growth for the functional economic area. I, that delegated authority be given to the Chief Executive and the Director of Finance and Section 151 officer, acting individually or collectively in consultation with the leader, to agree the final details of the transfer of LEP functions to the upper tier local authorities, including future governance arrangements. And finally, J, agree that Isle of Wight Council should seek to support the creation of a Solent Economic Partnership, and this is a bit you'll like, Councillor Stevens, inviting adjacent districts and boroughs, Hampshire County Council and other key public sector stakeholders to enable local authority leaders and leaders in the business community to have regular opportunity to discuss and support economic growth in the region. Those are my recommendations. I'm looking for a seconder, Chair.
Thank you, Julie. Laura seconded that. Any comments on this? There being no comments. Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is a report from myself as the Cabinet Member for Transport. It's District 2 TRO review of Newport and Carisbrooke. It's pages 113 to 222. You will know by now we've had a number of these come through. They come through in block for different areas of the island. The whole proposals are brought forward from a list compiled. It's called the Highway Safety Integrity Register, originally, and started back in 2013. So 10 years ago, and that list was populated by requests from members of the public, but largely from elected members, town and parish councillors, ward councillors and town and parish councils themselves on recommendations or requests for interventions to improve the safety of the highways. Now, those in turn, each of those requests are gone through a huge process of consultation, assessment through a matrix for how they score in terms of the safety benefits that they produce. And we have ended up with, for Newport and Carisbrooke, the list that's in front of you. In block, I don't propose to go through any of these individually. They've been through the process. There is a consultation process that you can read. On this occasion and for future recommendations, you will be able to see the comments made. Up until this point, we've just had the numbers of comments for and against the proposal. Now the paper in front of you shows what people actually said when they voted for or against, or indicate they were for or against proposals. So that's the proposals brought forward. There is an amendment, although it's not in this paper, so I hope it's coming to a future paper, in Alvington Manor View. So I want to make a note of that. I've spoken with the Highways team about the amendment, and it's a small amendment of which they are aware. And our proposals, if it is here, although it's not, I cannot find the plan in these papers, our approval or not tonight would exclude the portion of Alvington Manor View Road at the start, not to be implemented at this time. So there we are. I'll propose the TRO's review to you. Look for a seconder, Julie. Julie seconded it. Any comments on these proposals? And I'll come to you, Andrew, if I don't. I'll come to you, Andrew.
Yes, no, I mean, some, thank you. And I know it does take a lot of work and people wait a long time for some of these to come forward, but they have been through a robust process. And some of these are in my own ward and will be welcomed, no doubt, by some residents. So some are just sort of things being made regularised as well, isn't it? So as well as safety things. So no, it's good. It's good. There's an open process and people have got opportunity to comment. It'd be interesting to see what people's comments are when they come forward next time. So there's just that one that is these one being postponed. It was the Wellington Road one, wasn't there? That was all the
Thank you, Julie. Andrew, please, welcome your comments.
Thank you, Chair. Newport and Carisbrooke members have many of these in our various wards. One thing, two things that concern me, and the first is on the more general side of things. Are we in putting more and more paint down on our roads? Are we just making it that in the future there will be more and more problems? As unfortunately, there are more and more cars, and this is a private car owning democracy. We're not going to see that change in any reasonable period of time. And I would like to see if there's some way, particularly if there's an improvement in the council's financial position, that we can move away from just doing things with yellow paint and actually do things to put in proper physical structures that help the safety and otherwise. I think particularly you remember a question that came from the gallery a few weeks ago about speeding up Honey Hill. Actually, the proposal there on Honey Hill is that will actually make it easier for people to speed up Honey Hill, when actually we want to slow that down. We know very well that parked cars slow traffic. Cars that cannot park leave space where people feel they can drive faster. Particular instance, also one of the things in my own ward, in my own road, and I declare that interest, we'll see lines going because there is a fire hydrant there. Unless it is enforced, there is no point to putting those lines down, and we have to find ways of actually getting into the bigger issue of what is it we're trying to address. So I'm just flagging that up. If the council's financial position can be improving it in years to come, and it looks slightly like it is, then we move away from just a yellow paint solution to everything. The other thing I would say, and it is just the tidiness of the parish, certainly for Newport and Carisbrooke. Once the consultation period is over, can someone be instructed to go round and take the notices down? There are so many around there. I would take them down myself, but I think actually that would lead to me being in actually committing an offence because I'd taken down a public notice that had a statutory right to be there. But if we can impress upon whoever is putting up the notices that once we know that period of consultation is dealt with, take them back down again, tidy up our streets. On the particular measures, I do know, as with my community council chair hat on, that these did have an extensive informal discussion from the officers with members of the community council. Obviously, there was the statutory side of things, so I've no particular comments there, other than say, as far as I could see, that process did work. Although I'm aware some other local councils, parish town councils, have had a less than satisfactory experience. But can we definitely think about not necessarily reverting straight to yellow paint as a solution to all our problems? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll certainly take away the comment about the notices. I know the director is looking in also, and I'll take that up also. We'll make a note of that and make sure that they are dealt with in an appropriate way at appropriate time. Just general comment. It does seem I'd made a point of explaining these requests go back 10 years, and so they're coming to us now, and it seems as though there's lots of them, and there are lots of them. Some are quite minor, some are actually no changes whatsoever on the road. They're fixing what was wrong, the regulation sat behind them, but some are yellow lines put down because we were asked to do so over the 10-year period. And we didn't just say, oh, yes or no. We went away with a process and came back, as you know, Andrew. I take your point. We are well aware of, get to conflate the two of speeding necessarily with parking and parking in safety for different reasons. So, for example, in Newport, there's a problem with a narrow lane, Watergate Lane, where buses can't get through because the road is not wide enough, and yet cars are parked there. And so you have another issue to deal with, which requires careful consideration. So I do take your point, and I have to tell you, Andrew, that I was pretty central to asking through the planning process that in the past where we planning asked for from developers to put yellow lines down, that we tried to mitigate that if it was a loss of parking. So I'm very aware that just taking away parking spaces is storing up problems or moving problems, the same as residents parking site. I think your comment's very valid, Andrew, and we'll certainly take them on board moving forward, and thank you for them. Karen.
So St John's Road in Hill, well, St John's Road is in my ward, and I asked about having parked cars in some parts of it, and was explained it you couldn't because it was an urban clearway. So that was quite interesting, and I imagine some of these other roads are the same.
So each and every one of these is specific and looked at specifically, different problems, different requests to solve different problems. But as Councillor Garrett's pointed out, sometimes when you take cars away, they have a tendency to increase the speed of vehicles, a tendency. And we're very, very mindful of it.
I was just wondering if Honey Hill is actually an urban clearway as well. That's why it's.
The issue with Honey Hill is a crossing. Again, we're conflating preventing parking, although I accept that if you remove vehicles, it can increase the speed of traffic, but we're conflating that with the problems of people crossing the road, which is slightly different to the speed of vehicles.
Yeah, sorry if you just indulge me one more time. Not all of it is about removing parking. I've actually got in Albert Street, and you've actually got some parking coming back because there was a garage there. It's no longer there, so actually bringing some of the road back into use. So it's not all bad against cars parking. But I just wanted to sort of, and you said 10 years. This is on page 33. Got Rowan Garden, Sycamore Garden, no longer in my ward, but I was battling for about. Yeah, must be 12 years to try and get these parking restrictions things. It was really difficult. Shared surfaces, over 55s can only live in these two roads, and it was an absolute nightmare for them with people parking in the daytime, and dust carts having to drive over people's gardens and people getting stuck in their houses. It was just hell. So it's no longer in my central ward. I'm just so happy that. So don't give up on these things, I think, is the message.
Thank you, Julie. Any further comments? Okay, I proposed it. Julie seconded it. Those in favour of accepting, that's unanimous. Thank you all. 9 is the report of the Cabinet Member for Housing and Finance, Council Tax Rooms. Just before I mention that, the paper that Councillor Bacon brought forward is marked incorrectly, is it, or is this the one that's marked incorrectly? In terms of
Chair, I think you're referring to the QPMR report, which, while it was listed under me in the main timetable and the agenda, did have Councillor Stevens' title against it. I assume a simple slip, not quite sure why it wasn't picked up earlier. It is, as a result of discussion last year, deemed to be part of corporate services. So I did have a word with the Chief Executive beforehand, and I think that's been noted going forward.
So that's will be corrected. Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I think this agenda item's been well aired throughout, not just through the corridors of County Hall, but out on the streets and on the beaches of the Isle of Wight. Not tonight on the beaches, but there we go. Yeah, the levelling up and regeneration bill has given its first reading in the House of Commons, as it says in the executive summary, on the 11th of May 22. It was at that time, if you remember, we were being told, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? And other towns and villages up and down the country were actually trying to implement, empty properties and second home premiums on their council tax. Once again, the Isle of Wight Council showed patience, prudence, and if you like, a high regard for what is permissible under law and what isn't. At that time, this was not permissible by law. However, the bill's now received royal assent and is moved forward with the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act. And what I want to say is, before we get to the local issue, I want to say that this has come from central government. The Isle of Wight Council, whilst we're going out and we're trying to seek an island deal, whilst we're going out to try and seek more money for our services, etc., would be rather churlish to turn down the opportunity which central government has passed down to us. They've devolved the responsibility of taking this forward because in some quarters it might be unpopular. So what I'm saying is that we have a duty to our residents and indeed our staff to take this forward and pass this evening and with the recommendations, because it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we, as a cash-strapped local authority, as are a lot of others up and down the country, this is not just a local issue. This is throughout the land. We're duty bound to pass this through, and so are other councillors in the chamber. We've really got to make this stand and make this go forward. So what I want to do is there's half a dozen recommendations on page 231. We've brought out three. That's options 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 6. Sorry. What I would say is that I'll read those out before we go to the vote. But what I would want to say, and I am going to bring in my revenue and benefits manager, who's spoke very eloquently the other evening at scrutiny, and I never waste an opportunity of utilising our staff at the right time, because I think they know their subject matter, and it's through their advice and their brilliant documents, their papers that come before us, second to none again. We use the papers. We've got to use the expertise that we've got within our authority. But what I want to just touch on is what the legislation passed down allows us to do as a local authority. And you'll see on 3.3, reduce the minimum period for the implementation of council tax premium for empty properties from 2 years to 1 year. So we can actually now, after a year of a property being empty, raise a premium on that property. And that's a positive way forward for us. And I will say that within the paper and on 3.8, page 225, it gives you the opportunity, if you haven't already, and I know you have, to understand what properties we can absolutely move out, those under repair, those undergoing probate, houseboats, etc., etc. So there's a list there. Job related dwellings springs up as well. So there's lots of areas where we can actually move those to one side and say that we're not going to charge them. There's also the opportunity to appeal, and believe you me, our staff are second to none once again with the way they deal with appeals and assisting people with their appeal. So what I want to say is the legislation comes in on the 1st of April 2024, just after our budget. And as I said, we need things to move forward. We have a structured deficit that we're going to bring forward. We need all the help we can get to actually take that forward. And what I want to do is just point out the additional council tax for empty properties is 88,860. That's the total. And I'd like to say we have at this moment in time between 2,800 and 3,100 second homes. Now, who already pay council tax, but we are looking to put forward 100% up to 100% premium on them, and I don't feel that that's outlandish. I know that people, I know of people in Spain that pay full whack to the Spanish government, and they don't live there. I know people in France do the same. And so what we're doing is a year or 10 following behind Europe. Not that I want to follow behind Europe, but you get my drift. So that being it, we have the documentation in here is so good because you could turn every page and find something that supports the way forward. And I mean, everything from the risk management, I've marked this out on page 231, and the evaluation also, right through to the impact assessment in the appendices, I believe. So I know you've read it, and I know I've spoken to you at length on this, and I would like to, before I make the recommendations, bring in our revision benefits manager, because she is far more involved with this than I've been. But I think that we need to use the expertise when we have the expertise in the chamber. Would you like to comment, Sharon?
Yeah, thank you, councillor. I think it's also worth mentioning, I know the concerns were raised on Tuesday at scrutiny around maybe people dodging the second home premium, etc. So I just wanted to sort of share that there was legislation brought earlier last year around properties that were being used on a commercial basis, particularly Airbnbs. And just to explain that the legislation was brought in latter part of last year, that if a property was being used on a commercial basis for an Airbnb, that there would be a requirement for the homeowner to provide evidence to the valuation office around actually renting out the properties for 140 nights. And they would have to provide evidence not only of their website and bookings, but also of their financial accounts. So that does plug a gap. So on the basis of, is a property going to be commercial in the business rates world and conform to that requirement, or is the property going to stay into the council tax base whereby it remains a second home? So I think it's worth highlighting that point because that was a good concern that was raised on Tuesday night.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Sharon. That's those are the points worth noting, and you can see that the bill actually is well thought through, and I think that covers off certain elements where people could absolutely try and deviate from actually doing the done thing. So I think that what I'm saying now is that the bill itself has had a good airing. The LGA has put forward various proposals to it. A lot of it has been taken on board, and I think it's good legislation. What I would say is that the empty properties, the empty properties premium after 1 year comes in 1st of April 24, but the second homes legislation comes in a year later, 1st of April 2025. So we have time, and our property owners have time to consider and seek advice and assistance. By the same token, over the last year or so, under the leadership of my colleague to the right, Councillor PC Wilcox, we went and tried to bring back as many empty properties as we could, and we wrote to various premises and tried to contact the owners, and we did not have too much success in bringing these properties back online and back in, so we could use them and try and assist our empty properties and the people those in temporary accommodation into empty property. So I want to leave it at that, because I think everyone's well versed with this. It's a good paper, and to be quite candid, it gives us an opportunity passed down by the present government. And I think that if anyone does feel, how can I say, a little bit injured by it, then quite possibly contacting their local MP, wherever they may be, or speaking to and lobbying central government might have been a way forward. We are dealing with the tools that we are being given to assist us as a local authority, as our other local authorities. So I'm going to leave it there, Chair. I'm going to read out the recommendation. Look for a seconder. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Fuller, thank you.
Just indicate the options, Ian, please.
Will do, any moment now. Right, page 223, recommendations, paragraph 2.1. The Cabinet recommends to full council the following: to adopt, commencing the bill period starting the 1st of April 2024, a council tax premium of 100% for long-term empty property, as defined by amendments to the Local Government Finance Act 1992, in force on that date. To adopt, commencing the billing period starting the 1st of April 2025, a council tax premium of 100% for all dwellings occupied periodically, as defined by amendments to the Local Government Finance Act 1992, in force on that date. Second homes, and in brackets, second homes, and that the draft council tax policy for second homes, long-term empty properties, and determining discounts for certain dwellings be adopted, and that the council section 151 officer be given delegated authority to amend the council's policy of premiums in line with secondary legislation and or statutory guidance, as and when published in conjunction with the revenues and benefits managers. And that last, I just want to mention that last thing is obviously giving a little bit of latitude to our section 151 officer and our empty properties managers and revenues and benefits managers as well, to make sure that we adhere to government legislation of that day. Thank you.
Can I have a seconder for that, please? Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. This was quite a difficult one for me. I know when the consultation occurred last year, I advised a great deal, a lot of residents to make sure that they were involved. Now, a lot of the feedback that came back sort of like advised me that there were issues, but I'm very pleased to see the exemptions that have been put in, and I think the exemptions for the seasonal holiday homes, the empty properties undergoing repairs, the annexes, and also, what is very, very important to the key workers' houses. We have a lot of people that have to live on the island because their work brings them to the island, and they are important for our community, and particularly people that are working for the hospital that can provide support for our community. So I think that is really important, and I'm pleased to see that the government took on some of those concerns that certainly some of the residents that approached me did. So I'm quite happy to second this. Very pleased to see that there are regulations in place for Airbnbs, because again, we've seen a lot of private rented houses on the island being absorbed by the Airbnb market. And I think that is quite good, because we can use those funds to be able to invest in our sort of like social housing and affordable housing that we have on the island with the premiums that come forward for that. So yes, I'm very happy to second this, and I'm very grateful for the government to take on board a lot of the comments that certainly were reflected to me on board. Thank you.
Paul. JB.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I think all of us around the table have had emails recently about this, or had them last year. Some of us live in areas where there are a number of second homes, or in my case, I'm close to an area where there are a lot of second homes, and it's a major issue. Of course, second homeowners do contribute to the local economy. That is the argument that is very often raised, and you can't deny it. But what we're doing here is looking at the bigger picture. There are adverse impacts, some adverse impacts from an excess of second homes in a community. I'm aware of a resident local to me who moved from another area on the island that is well known for its second homes, because they simply didn't feel safe in the winter with the empty streets and so on. It's maybe not something one would automatically think of, but it certainly does seem to have affected at least that person. But of course, as has been remarked, it is also something that impacts on the availability of accommodation to local people. I think a particularly important point, though, was touched on by Councillor Stevens, in that he talked about this as an opportunity for this authority. Of course, we have a long-running case for proper funding for this island, which has never been properly addressed. The fight goes on. It isn't rocket science to note that if we were to turn down this opportunity that has been given and reject it, what impact would that have on our ability to argue for proper funding in Westminster? So I'm cognizant of the arguments that have been raised eloquently against this proposal, this policy, but I must say that the arguments in favour of it far outweigh them, and I'm certainly in favour.
Thank you, JB. Julie, and then I'll come to Carl.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think Councillor Bacon makes a really good point. You know, what are our choices if we don't do this? And I think that's the stark reality of it. This is necessary for us to get to be a sustainable economy, and you know, we are still waiting for our proper funding through the island deal, and we won't, as Councillor Bacon said, we won't be giving up on fighting for that, as we have done ever since this administration came in. And Councillor PC Wilcox certainly threw a lot of energy into it, and a lot of charm as well. And indeed, when the minister came down in October, I think they were very impressed with the robustness of our arguments as well. Anyway, so I'm drifting off, but you know, I think the main point is we don't have a choice in this, from my perspective. And I think there might be it'd be interesting to see how things pan out. You know, you might get people that have got a house just using for the summer, might go, actually, I'll rent it out the rest of the time, so then becomes available for local people. Or it could be all year round holiday. In that case, getting turnover down, people are spending money on our local economy. We don't know what's going to happen. People will be making their own individual choices. They might have decided, you know what, the Isle of Wight is so fantastic, I'm going to make this my main home. So that would be even better, wouldn't it? So yeah, I don't think we've got a choice, and I think it'd be interesting to see how this pans out. I did receive letters as well, and I understand arguments to and fro, but this legislation is here, and we need to take it on board and go with it. So thank you for bringing the paper forward, everybody. I know this is Betsy's done a lot of work on it as well, so thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Carl?
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me just to ask just a couple of very quick things. I mean, I think the first thing is I declare that I'm a bed and breakfast owner with an Airbnb. What my alarm bells just rang slightly. I think we need to be really clear and differentiate between the B&B owners and the business owners that are here, as opposed to people who are converting in order to avoid perhaps the payment of this tax. I think we just need a little bit of clarity there so as not to destabilise the current market of business on the island around B&Bs, because it was mentioned. So I just think that that's a message that the council could give out strongly. I think Councillor Bacon raises an interesting point, is that there are actually quite a lot of islanders who have second homes, particularly caravans and mobile homes. And I think some clarity and support for them around, I'm not quite sure what I mean support for them, but clarity of message is something that really needs to be thought about. And the other bit that, you know, we're all hoping that this will raise funds for the island. But I would point out that in Wales, they've introduced this there, and out of their 100% return, they only got 9% of implementing it. So we need to learn from that experience in the hope that we bring in some money. So for those people who think that this is going to be the council jumping in there and claiming millions and millions and millions of pounds from people, in actual fact, it will make a smaller but important contribution. That's the only thing that I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Points well made. My understanding is from reading option one, of course, that we're talking about properties that are long-term empty and periodically. We're certainly, you're absolutely right. We're certainly not our intention to affect a B&B and that kind of business. Absolutely not. Anything you want to add? Any further comments? We'll move to the vote.
I think that and just to reiterate what I mentioned before, that we have a team, and if people have a concern, then they'll raise the concern. If there's a judgment made, then they can appeal. And I think that's what we're looking at. Is, you know, we're not jumping in. We're actually doing the bidding of what central government should have done, and actually put this on as a national deal that, okay, local authorities will charge. I think it's, and you know me, I'm not political. I mean, I sit in the council chamber and don't say too much because, quite honestly, I am not political. But what I would say is that when you're in government, much the same as when you're in council, and you know, and you have a cabinet system, then unfortunately you have to make some hard decisions, and don't bat it down the corridor to someone else, or bat it from Westminster to the Isle of Wight or Bournemouth or wherever else. I just think that you know, we're doing what we have to do, because as Councillor Bacon quite rightly says, if we don't do it, then we endanger all the grounds that we are standing firm on with regards to severance by sea as an island and the delivery of service. So it's an unfortunate way forward, but once again, we have to do it. Because if we don't seize opportunities for bringing finance forward for the local authority, and indeed to support our services, everyone says that, you know, we're going to buy new property with it. Well, wouldn't that be nice? We have the deficit. We have situation with rising cost of services. So it's not okay. It's a glory day, and suddenly our ships come in, and we've got some money. The money that we derive from any form of premium from empty properties or second homes will actually go to assist us in providing services for island people. I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you very much indeed. And I've read out the three, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. We are in order. Just before we move to the vote, I'm reminded that scrutiny, of course, looked at this item, and I can report that the committee requested that, if approved, an update on council premiums on empty properties come back to the committee, the scrutiny committee, in April 2025 to review the first year. They also requested that, if approved, an update on council premiums on second homes comes back to the committee, the scrutiny committee, in April 2026 to review the first year. And finally, quite importantly, to support what Councillor Stevens has said, the committee said the committee voted unanimously to endorse the recommendations to Cabinet. Scrutiny is in favour of the decision that we're about to take, assuming we're all in favour. And I'll move to the vote. You want to speak again, Carl? No. I will move to the vote. Those in favour of the recommendations, please show. That's you can't vote, Carl. That's unanimous. Thank you all. Yeah. Item 10 is consideration of forward plan. Any to identify any decisions? Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, you know, we've done a bit of talking, but it sounds like we're going to have some more. Announcements from cabinet members. Who wants to announce anything? Okay. Laura, JB.
Yes, well, I would like to say that we have won a gold award. Whoop, whoop. So this is the Green Impact Award. We've won gold. We must thank Abby for the team, because she's been absolutely outstanding in running around with bird and bug boxes and bird feeders, trying to make sure that we can win. So basically, this is it's a sustainability and social responsibility engagement award scheme. It's designed to support businesses across the island to improve their environmental performance. So it's whilst making the island cleaner, greener, and a more attractive place to live and work. And we know people come here for all that. So things that they do is that businesses provide secure cycle storage for its staff or customers. Businesses have calculated its total carbon footprint. Business has installed instant water boilers. Now that's interesting, because I always wondered whether they were more economical, but they absolutely are, rather than kettles. And then businesses having bird feeders, bug boxes and trees on the premises. So yeah, basically a whole thing. And we've through Abby's determination and a number of other teams, the waste team and the resources team, all of those have made us a win gold. So I think that's something to be proud of. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. It's good news, good information. Well done to our team. I know you'll pass that back from us. Shall I go round, or is anyone? Yeah, okay. Ian, what? No, I'll come to you last, Ian. Karen.
So on Saturday, I was lucky enough to go to the Youth Commission and see what their outcomes from their survey were for this wonderful group of young people. And I just want to reiterate that we are looking for somebody for the Youth Commission for the Isle of Wight. We've got one member. It'd be really nice to have some others. So if my colleagues know of any younger people, 14 to 25, that would like to do that. So basically the Youth Commission enables young people to support, challenge and voice young people's opinions across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to help shape decisions about policing and crime. It's really, really important. So that's that one. Also, the Youth Independent Group, Advisory Group. So again, it's 14 to 25, and they help work with the police and help with policing around young people and how, if they're engaged with that, with trust, also in the system, how they're dealing with it. So they've done like videos for people, for younger people when they go into the custody suite. So it explains what's going to happen to them and stuff. So it's really good. I would I would recommend to anybody that knows of anybody or to get involved in that. It's a really, really, really good project, both of those. Also, we've got the new Beat Bobbies on the streets, working with our communities. So there's 9 for the island. It doesn't sound a lot. People have said it's only 9, but actually this is separate to our neighbourhoods and our district teams. The district teams are our 999 our 999 teams, but there is a website, sorry, the PCC website at the top. You can click on it and you can find your local bobby, and it actually gives you a phone number for them. So that doesn't take the place of 999 if it's life threatening, and it doesn't take the place of reporting a crime if you need to 101. But what it does do is you're able to speak if you're concerned about something in your neighbourhood, etc. Remember that they work shift patterns, so sometimes they're on nights, afternoons, and mornings. So don't leave them anything that's time sensitive. Do report to 999 or 101. And also, we've got a letter today from the Police and Crime Commissioner about an ASB fund has been established to assist in tackling persistent issues. So the bid is opening for applicants, and it's open now. So I'll give that to the press so they've got a copy of that. So I would hope that our volunteer sector and our projects will work and help us on our ASB issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I know how hard you work personally with the PCC and the relationship you've developed and some of the things that have come forward. I know as a direct result of you pushing for them, like the police station's opening, and I know you're pushing for more. And thanks. Keep up the good work. It's making a difference.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. So next week we've got half term, and we've got museum days again at Newport Roman Villa, and we've got clay days there and £1 entry. So Wednesday 14th and Friday 16th, clay days, we can go along and make some monsters and all different things. There's everything's set up for you. So it's only £1 to get in there. And then in the Guildhall, the Museum of Ireland History, that's £1 for adults and 50p for children on the 13th and the 15th. And they've got the story of the Isle of Wight rodeo riders, which sounds amazing. So that'd be really good to do. So it's nice to have these things available for our families during half term. And these are our council museums in Newport. We've got on the 20th of February, the Solent Cultural Strategy, which we've had workshops on the island in Portsmouth and Southampton. We're very successful. They've now got the follow-up workshops going to be online, and that's on the 20th of February. If you go on the Solent Partners website, you can get the links to sign up for that, and that's in the morning, afternoon, evening. So hopefully you can fit one of those into your schedule. Visited the Isle of Wight conference last week. That was really good. I couldn't stay for all of it, but I've just had an email through, and anyone can catch up on any of the events because they've streamed them all, so you can just catch up on that. But it was great to hear from Visit England and giving us our local visitor economy status. We're one of the first ones in the country in England, so that's really, really good that they valued the professionalism of Visit Isle of Wight team, but also the wonderful offer we have here on the island. And I learned a new term. It's called set jetting. So that's where you basically it's the tourism that follows film and TV shows. People actually go and visit the sets. So set jetting, that's a new one. So hopefully we'll be having a lot of more set jetting here ourselves in the near future. We were successful just before Christmas in getting some more funding from Historic England. I can't remember if I said that last month or not. Anyway, I'll say it now. So that was really great. That was from our internal bid writer within our regen team, and that's enabled that project to be able to keep some of the really important architectural features in that building department. So that's really exciting. That's all going. I think they've moved out now, and so all the builders are in. So that's fantastic news. I attended the Cowes Northwood place plan event, and it was excellent. It was at building 41. That building's doing really well. You know, I pop in there and it's just always full and vibrant, and it's just, yeah, it's such a great project that, and it's really good to see it being used, and more growing to do, of course. So and yeah, so I thought it was really good the way that the Cowes Northwood have approached their their place plan, completely different from Newport, completely different from the Bay. I think that's the whole point of them. They are reflective of the local community. And finally, we've got the houses are getting to the pointy end of the houses now. We have got a little bit of flex in there with some of our delivery, which is great. And again, we've been pulling some extra funding through other partners, and particularly in Newport, and I think it's going to affect Ryde as well with the Greenway. And we've just put the Greenway plan has gone back to government now as well on last week on time. So busy as ever. So I could go on, but other members want to speak, so I'll spare you, Chair.
Thanks, Julie. Well done. Lots of good stuff in there. Yeah, it's positive, and amongst the doom and the gloom and the wet and dark weather and cold, and there's brightness and sunshine and achievements, but there are, and unless you say it to people, it gets lost. So thank you for that, Paul.
And now is the turn of the Grim Reaper of the cabinet. Good news. We've got SBDs coming up on health and flooding, which will help to bolster our policies in respect, planning policies in respect to those two areas. I have spoken to our officers and highlighted the fact that these were priorities, certainly since the flooding that we had earlier on in the year, and the need to have special supplementary planning documents to look at that. But also health is another issue. We have a lot of people complaining time after time after time about the fact that we haven't got the medical support that the island needs to be able to operate. I know that there are issues particularly being raised at the moment, particularly with dentistry on the island, and how that's affecting it, and how we as planners can come and maybe support people moving to the island. Later on this month, we have a public meeting that's been set up, which will be providing an update on the Ventnor landslips and coastal protection. So that is something that I'm looking forward to sort of like going along to, listening to residents and understanding from residents how we can actually help to support those residents who have been impacted adversely by some of the landslips that we've had across the slips that we've had, particularly in the Bonchurch area. So again, I'm really looking forward to being able to engage with residents at that public meeting. One of the great things that we've done in planning is that now on Wednesday afternoon you can meet planners, which is something that has been off the schedule for a number of years, certainly since the lockdown. In the past, one of the things that we found with peer review was that there was a requirement, again, to be able to talk to planning officers about planning issues, about looking at planning applications. And we've been running this now for 2 weeks. And in that time, we've had 20 people coming in, and they've made use of that service, which is really, really good. So again, no, there is no appointment. It's basically walk in and speak to planning officers, and if they can't help you, they will try to signpost you to somebody that can. So that is a good approach that I'm really pleased that the planners are running with. In addition, we are also resurrecting the Agents and Architects Forum, which has also fallen by the wayside over the last couple of years following COVID and everything else that's happened. That again is being resurrected, and I understand their first meeting is tomorrow. Again, this is a meeting between planning officers and agents and architects, which again has been missing for a while. I say that there has been communication going on, but again, that has been sort of like that hasn't been in such an open way as these meetings will be. Minutes will be taken of those meetings that take place, and I'm really pleased to see that being resurrected. Other than that, it's just It's just fun and joy within my cabinet position, and I look forward to taking any questions from any residents or anybody that have any. Thank you. Oh, well, no, the island planning strategy is a couple of months away yet, so.
Thanks, Paul. Again, it's good stuff going on there. Please hear. Okay, JB.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I can't offer anything as exciting as an afternoon of speed dating with planners, but just before I say what I was hoping to say, I was put on the spot a little bit early. Unfortunately, could not recall the application dates for schools for 25 entry. So for the information of all those present who have young children, secondary is 31st of October this year, with the offer day being 3rd of March 25. And primary, I think this is the same as this year, 15th of January 25 for primary applications, with the offer day being on the 16th of April. So I hope that assists. Thank you for prompting me. I did defer saying anything in relation to the QPMR because I want to speak looking forward rather than back on what that report was looking at. And particularly, I want to note that in respect of children's services, as of last Thursday, the core partnership in respect of this service area with Hampshire has ceased. Obviously, important elements of working together continue, but aside from those, we stand alone. Our new DCS and Head of Education Inclusion have taken up post. I welcome them, and particularly Mr. Whitaker, who is here attending his first cabinet meeting. And our new Service Director for Children's Social Care will be taking up post in a few weeks' time. I just wanted to say that I think this gives us a unique opportunity to grasp the issues that exist in relation to children's services, and to now have them addressed by officers who are focused on the island and its concerns without the distractions of involvement with another area. And I think that's important. I think it gives us the ability to develop a much more robust strategy and vision going forward. As is noted in the QPMR, and I would have mentioned at that point if I wasn't planning to say a few words now, a key part of this new strategy and vision will be a renewed and refreshed place planning process, but it will be taking place within as a more holistic approach, shall we say. There will be a creation and pursuit of a wider strategy to improve the quality of island education. In that regard, I've already spoken with head teachers and other school staff. In the coming weeks, we will be briefing members and also meeting with school governors. And then most importantly, we'll be going out to engage more widely with schools and particularly parents and other stakeholders. And the aim here is very much to discuss, alongside place planning, our vision, our strategy. And that is all going to occur before any proposals are announced. We will be setting out our aims and hopes, what we're seeking to achieve, but we want to inform those by a process of engagement. And as I say, that is going to be key in informing whatever proposals come forward. So that's just what I wanted to say, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, JB, and good luck on our new journey with.
You said you wouldn't use my pet name in public. You said you wouldn't use my pet name in public.
Did I? Thank you for that update. Appreciate it and the work that you're doing, and good luck for the team, Ashley, and yourself to write a new history for the island, a renewed history at least, anyway. Thank you. Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. Follow that, as they say. What I would like to say is we know that we have challenges within adult social care, but I think looking at the QPMR, we can see we've got some very talented, dedicated staff. And the position that we have got to, we would not have got to without the extreme hard work of that staff that always put our island residents and our island communities first. I just thought that that did need to be said. Through public health, we are promoting a government initiative called Smoke-Free Generation. A briefing was given to councillors to disseminate to their communities. It's a government initiative which addresses the health issues associated with smoking with a range of measures that are primarily focused on supporting people to not start smoking in the first place. Because data shows that most people who currently smoke wish that they hadn't started in the first place. But it's very much about supporting people to stop smoking. And as on the very day that we were giving the briefing to councillors, the government announced that they were banning, and they have now banned the sale of disposable vapes. But I would stress that we are not against the use of vapes as an aid to stopping smoking, but their use by non-smokers, especially the use of disposable vapes by under 18s, is an area of concern. And it is good to see the government taking action and recognising this, but also work has been done by our own colleagues in public health through the schools, through the secondary schools, to actually get that message through. And we're also working with trading standards colleagues to try to put pressure that these disposable vapes are not made to look like an attractive proposition to our young people. I also visited a wonderful council-run facility where I spent some time with staff and residents. And I've got other visits in the pipeline, but it did make me realise when I actually visit and I see staff in action, how fortunate we are to have such great staff. And some of those residents, we have the staff build relationships with them, and we have been supporting them for many years, and it's only right that we do so. And finally, I'd like to say I attended an event that was put on, a wellbeing event, especially for our support staff and carers, to show how much we value their work. And it was very well attended, over 150 colleagues who enjoyed a range of activities. I think there was Zumba, but there was more pamper sessions as well. And also a hairdresser came along and was providing free haircuts. And it was a really, really good event. So thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. And finally, Ian.
I think, to be quite candid, Chair, I've said enough to actually put things forward and get into the forefront of your minds about the empty properties, about the hard work of our homelessness prevention team, etc., etc. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want any of you to lose the importance of one, the paper that we've just passed through, and thanks to Scrutiny for doing that, but also the work that is being done by our teams out there. Big thank you to the Chief Exec and to our finance team for helping us get a very good solid budget over the line. Let's hope that any amendment, if they do come forward, and really I don't see how it can better what we've already got, to be quite honest, perhaps I'm conceited. But what I would say is, let's have the impact assessments to go with them, and let's make sure that we are not losing the focus of where we are and the corporate priorities of this council, because we're going forward in a structured manner to achieve a nil deficit in a couple of years' time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. For myself, I'll just add one thing on the parking. We've now published our budget proposal, Ian, and as you say, thank you, Wendy, to the entire team that have worked on that, and input from across the council and particularly our finance team, to bring a council budget forward for recommendation, hopefully next week from this cabinet, and then on to full council on the 28th of February. I just want to clarify one thing in our proposal on parking, so that there's no confusion. We took a decision to increase parking charges a few weeks ago. The reason that that was taken a few weeks ago is so that it could be implemented in time for the 1st of April. Our budget proposal, however, is to have no increases of parking charges on this island, nor floating bridge increases in the coming year. That's 24-25. And to further clarify, there will be no changes this current financial year. That's up until April of the current charges. So the position is there is no increases this year, and there is no increases next year on parking and on the floating bridge. I just want to make that clear because I've had some questions around a potential confusion. There is no confusion. There is no charges. It's part of our budget. And if it's accepted and moved through and approved at full council, that's what will happen as part of our offer out into our community and to help our town centres, our businesses and our residents that are poorly stretched. So thank you for that. Can I move on therefore to the forward plan? Any amendments, any comments on it? I know we've been through it informally. Thank you. No changes to that. And some good stuff coming up on that, actually. Some interesting, important decisions to be made by this cabinet coming up on the forward plan. So we look forward to that coming up and us moving forward with some of our projects and aspirations. Members' questions time. Any questions? Carl would like to ask a question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Cabinet for all the hard work that you put in. It's very much appreciated. This has been quite a thing with the budgets. I'm going to ask a question that's come out of the debates tonight that I think that my community would like me to ask, really. And I do feel like the Grim Reaper, but I think I'm going to ask the question and then you can come back. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans reported tonight and Councillor Stevens reported on the new Solent enterprise partnership. This might look like a government devolvation by stealth of our council's future. So my question is, does the cabinet think that our island is heading for a union of devoluted councils where we may or may not, tell you, when I write things down, I just fall apart. Does our council think that we are heading for a devoluted island where we will be in a union with other councils where we may no longer have or be in control of some of our island local affairs? Quite complex and wordy, sorry. I should have just said it as I felt it rather than writing it.
Oh, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 answers here. If Councillor Stevens answers, he'll give you a very long answer, and you may.
I think the question needs to be asked.
Councillor Julie Joseph will give you some accurate information. I'll give you a very quick answer. No, that's not going to happen. But Ian or Julie, please speak.
Yeah, I mean, the mood music from government is that's what they want. I've been very clear about that. However, the autonomy for the island to be the architect of its own future is absolutely fundamental to whatever we do and how we do that. And partly, you know, the thing is, as unitary authority, legally, you don't have to join. You can just stay on your own. So we could have stayed on our own. So if we were to get, say, I don't know, like 28 million pound a year extra from government, which we work out that's what we're due to, so we can run our services, we might just go, do you know what, actually, we're sustainable, we can manage. But we don't know what the future holds, do we?
Just thought it was a question that needed to be
Yeah,
asked.
it's and there'll be a big debate. We had debates. I mean, Councillor Bacon was being down this road. It was quite a long road and quite, yeah, a tiring road. But I think again, I mean, it's almost 10 years on, isn't it? Or I think we're in a different space again. So I think it's up for debate. Let's see what comes out of it. But you know, we understand the island, and having a strong voice, whatever happens, is absolutely fundamental.
Thanks, Julie. Laura?
Yeah, I wouldn't have spoke actually, but as leader, I had great pressure on me to, as you know, Carl, to join with Hampshire. I mean, it was absolutely, and when I met with the government minister, she actually thanked me for my candour, because I was extremely blunt in saying that the island, we would not be going in with Hampshire. And because I just, you know, they were offering 30 million over 10 years. What was the Isle of Wight going to get out of that? Absolutely, bearing in mind Hampshire's financial situation. She thanked me for my candour, because I was very blunt with her that was a no.
Just thank God we are a unitary, because we can
Yes.
say no, and that's the really important thing. I think in that Hampshire document they put forward 2 years ago, I think they mentioned the Isle of Wight twice. I think they might have even spelt it wrong as well at one point. So, you know, they don't understand us, but I think so our nearest and dearest perhaps understands a little bit better.
And I'll repeat, it's a no. It won't happen, Carl. We can assure you. I have one further written question from Councillor Lilly. Bit like Neville Chamberlain's, I've got a bit of paper thing. It's so long, I'm not going to read it. It's a valid question. We've provided a written response to Councillor Lilly, and that will be, if it hasn't already, will be sent to him in due course. There being no other questions, no, then at 6:51 we'll close the meeting. Thank you all, everyone in the room, for attending and being patient and attentive even, and we will see you soon. Thank you.